everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to if you're new here. And for today I have a story time. This happened about like 5 years ago and it was my first roommate experience, and oh my gosh, guys, it was literally insane. So much stuff happened, it got really crazy. And I'm here to share it with you guys because I know a lot of you have been asking for more story time, so I'm here to deliver, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Make sure you leave a like to let me know that you did, and without further ado, let's hop right into the video. Okay, so about 5 years ago when I first moved to the area that I'm in now, I was going to be going into my second college program. Best friend at the time was going to be going to the university that was in the same area, and we wanted to live together. So the building that we moved into had 4 rooms. So me and my then best friend, who I'm going to call Heather, we ended up taking up 2 of the 4 rooms that were available. And in this building, if you didn't find other roommates, which they kind of left up to you, you ended up having to split the rent of the other room between yourselves, which is absurd and ridiculous. So we were like, we need another roommate, and we ended up finding another girl who we're gonna call Julie. She wasn't going to be moving in during the summer. She was going to be coming up, moving some things here and there, and we were all going to hang out when she did come up, but she wasn't going to be living there ongoing, at least for the summer, because she still was living at home and working back home. Instead of only having 3 roommates for the first little bit there, I don't think we were going to be forced to pay for that room, because I don't think at the time, if I can remember correctly, I don't think they had any more people. So it wasn't like we chose to have 1 less roommate, it was that they didn't have anybody else to give us. So I'm pretty sure that's how that went, and we thought it was just going to be the 3 of us, and that me and Heather were going to be able to have this whole apartment essentially to ourselves for the whole summer. So the girl that comes in here and ends up being crazy, we're going to call her Katie, and we didn't seek her out. We had no idea who she was, neither did Julie, which, by the way, we didn't know Julie before. We had just met her as she was like moving her stuff in. Our building manager ended up asking us, look, like this girl Katie, there was a disagreement between her and her roommates, and she doesn't have a place to stay now. Can we please put her in your unit? And like, something about it seemed a little off, and we were both thinking, like, if they're like begging us to take her in, like, why are her roommates kicking her out? Like, why do 3 other people not want this girl? We ended up going against what our gut had told us. Really, this girl needs a place to stay. We have an extra room. Let's just do it, and then we also don't have to worry about any problems later on if they try to make us pay for that extra room. So let's just do it. Let's just say yes. So we do. Katie comes, she moves all her stuff in, and it's great because she ends up moving in and having a dining table. She had the 1 piece of furniture that we were missing, which is really awesome. She seemed super friendly, everything seemed good, and like, nothing was weird in the beginning. Like, everything was fine. We were going to drive-ins together, we were going out together. When Julie had come down, like, all 4 of us had gone out. We definitely got in like a good couple of weeks before anything like got crazy. So everything seemed fine, everything seemed normal. So where the weirdness kind of starts is our bathroom situation. Because we had 4 bedrooms, we did end up having 2 bathrooms. 1 bathroom had a tub and was actually a lot smaller, and then the other bathroom had just a stand-up shower and was bigger. So Heather and I had known each other for literally like 4 years before this, and we were like, honestly, if either of us need to get into the bathroom, we're both comfortable with each other, and like, we both like taking baths, and the other 2 girls didn't really care about baths, so it was like, it would make sense that we share a bathroom then. Plus, if she's in there, I got no problem going in, she has no problem with me going in, we're both very comfortable with each other. That's just like 1 less hassle for 1 bathroom, you know what I mean? And everybody agreed with it, everybody was fine with it, plus we were literally taking the smaller bathroom. It's not like we were taking this huge glamorous one, and it's not like the tub was anything special, but like, we both loved taking baths. So Julie still hadn't moved in yet, so it was just the 3 of us, me, Heather, and Katie. And Katie had moved her stuff from the stand-up bathroom into me and Heather's bathroom, which we thought was really weird. We had already all agreed that me and Heather would share a bathroom, and Katie could literally have an entire bathroom to herself, unless, you know, Julie comes down and she needs to use it, or when school starts and her and Julie would share. But she literally had a whole bathroom to herself. And she moved all her stuff into our bathroom. This girl would take such long showers. I swear she would take up to an hour. And like me and Heather at the time, we worked 2 different jobs, but we ended up working the same jobs together and we ended up getting the same shifts. So we both had to get ready at the same time. And that was another reason why sharing a bathroom worked out, because if, you know, she needed to be in the shower and I had to brush my teeth, like, it was no problem. But now we have Katie in our bathroom being in there for over an hour, and neither of us can go in there and get ready, and we both have to work literally at the same time. And at this point, neither of us had a vehicle, so we had to bus. And busing anywhere in this area, it takes like an hour to get anywhere. Not only did we have to be ready to leave an hour before, but we needed that hour just to get to our workplace. So it was super frustrating. I still don't know why she did it. I really don't understand. It ended up feeling like really weird and we weren't sure how to address it. So we ended up just moving her stuff back into her bathroom, and she didn't say anything about it. A couple times she did try replacing it. Last time we had moved her stuff over, she didn't end up moving it back and we got to have that bathroom. But it was just such a weird thing to have happen. And we started to think maybe she feels left out because she doesn't have to share a bathroom. But at the same time, it's like, who even really does want to share a bathroom? And plus we were hanging out, given I will say Heather and I were really close, so she probably did feel a little separated in that sense, just because we had known each other for so long, had so much history, but we always invited her to hang out whenever there was a party, or she wanted to come to a party, or if we were gonna have a party. We'd always be in the living room talking, or the kitchen talking. When Katie's boyfriend would come over, like, we'd all hang out. Like, it wasn't like we separated her, it was just we didn't need 3 people in one bathroom when we had 2, you know what I mean? So it's not like we were making her feel like she wasn't welcome. It just didn't make sense for 3 of us to use one bathroom. And it was literally gonna make us late for work. So we ended up having to do something. It started off really slow. It didn't really get too bad until probably the time Heather left, which she did leave a little early before the end of summer. And a different girl ended up moving in. Her name, we'll call her Robin. We'll call the new girl Robin, who ended up moving in like a little bit before the school year started. So that's around the time stuff started to get like a little worse. She started making a huge mess in the kitchen. This girl would cook like a whole meal for herself, and like she wouldn't put anything in Tupperware. She'd put the pots and the pans in the fridge to save it, which we didn't have that many pots and pans, and divide between 4 people. Even if you have 1 pot, like, that's got to be clean right away so someone else can use it. And she would put it in the fridge full of her food. I remember one time I think I had 1 spoon in the sink. This girl would cook a whole meal. She would use every pot, every pan, every utensil. And because I had 1 spoon in that sink, all of her dishes she would pile in the sink. She wouldn't soak them. She wouldn't wash them. She would leave them there. And when we would ask her about it, she would tell us that it was our dishes. Girl, the food in the fridge ain't mine. I ain't eating any of that. That's what you made. That's none of the groceries that I bought. Plus, how is any of that mine? But if there was ever a time that you had a dish in the sink when she put her dishes in, automatically all of them was yours. And we had tested it before of leaving them. Mind you, all you have to do is rinse it and put it in the dishwasher, but like, I'm not your mom. You can do it yourself. We tested leaving it and she never touched it. She would literally never touch it unless she needed something from it, which just started a whole different level of stress. So her not doing the dishes, and then even when she would put them in the dishwasher, which took an extensive amount of complaining, which it shouldn't have to be that point. Literally, we felt like parents. And she would leave the dishwasher wide open, like all the things out. She wouldn't close it and turn it on, she'd just leave it open. And like, wouldn't unload it if it was all her stuff either. She would leave the doors open all the time. Like, she would leave the cupboard doors open all the time. It was like living with a teenage boy. It was just, everything she did in the kitchen never made sense. So this is where it starts to get pretty bad. This is around the time that Julie is here now. Julie's here more often. Heather has now left, and now the new girl Robin has come in. Robin was a super sweet, quiet girl. Honestly, Julie was pretty quiet too. I feel like she started to come out of her shell more as like, she lived with us, but she was still a pretty quiet individual when we had met her. Which, by the way, I was good with every single roommate that came in, and we had a few of them come in. I still talk to Julie from time to time here. There's another girl that comes in this story that I still talk to and hang out, and there was never an issue with Robin. Like, her and I would study and stuff together. Like, there was never an issue with anyone else except Katie, and I feel like that says enough. It's still summertime, it's still really, really hot, and Robin, me, and Julie all agree that the perfect temperature to have a unit in is like 68. It's the perfect amount of coolness for our specific unit. I don't know if anyone below us had heat on or what the case was, but like if it was anything above that, it started to get like really uncomfortable. So the three of us could definitely agree on that temperature, but Katie wanted it to be 71 degrees. In the summer. That's basically heat at that point. Compromise would we can go up a little bit, like why don't we do like 69 then? Can we compromise and be like a little on the warmer side? But I think once you hit 70, it's like, that's gonna get really uncomfortable. This girl ends up getting a hamster and then tells us, well, my hamster will die if it's not 71 degrees in this apartment. Your hamster doesn't pay rent? Just completely absurd. She wouldn't even compromise on what number she wanted it. She wanted it hot, like 71, 72. We were all like, that's really hot for the summertime, plus we're higher up. So if anyone below us has heat on, like that's gonna rise, like that's gonna come up to us. Like, let's do like the 69 then. Like, we were trying to compromise. Like 78 was already like, okay, it's not too cold. We probably could have been perfect with like 66 because we liked being cold, but we had already said like, that's probably like too cold. Let's do 68, and then we're trying to move it to 69. But if it wasn't the exact temperature that Katie wanted, it was completely unacceptable. She didn't like, nope, we can't do it. It needs to be 71, it needs to be whatever that she wants. And this went on for the entire time that we lived with her. She never agreed with anything. It was always three of us could agree and one of us couldn't. And it was always Katie who couldn't agree. It was getting to the point that I actually had to duct tape from her turning the AC off, which would get really freaking hot in our unit. And opening the windows just let more hot air in. It was completely uncomfortable. I could not sleep. I had a fan on, I would have my window open at night. I'd be literally sweating in my sheets. I could not even fall asleep. And it just made no sense why she always had to disagree with us. And like, our country doesn't even work that way. You know what I mean? Like, it's majority rules. So I'm sorry. We're trying to compromise. We're trying to make this comfortable for all of us. But if it comes down to it and you're not budging, majority rules, three of us against one. So school starts, it's starting to get cooler. Obviously we turn the heat on, but the heat is just never hot enough for Katie. She always wants it way hotter than it needs to be. We're on the 4th floor, other people have their heat on. Heat literally rises. Like, she wants us to literally be melting in this apartment. It gets to the point where I ended up duct taping the heat adjusting thing, and she ends up shutting the breaker off. She would turn the breaker off and it would just get boiling in our apartment. It would literally get so hot. We'd constantly have to come home, turn the breaker back on, allow it to adjust the heat in our apartment so that it wasn't like a freaking sauna. It was literally, it was terrible. It was just a constant war with her with this. Another thing that was really frustrating with her is that she always told us she needs 12 hours of sleep. If she gets anything less, like, it's just unacceptable. And this girl, literally, if she went to bed at like 6, 7 o'clock because she needed her 12 hours, you couldn't even be in the living room watching a movie quietly because she would come out and freak out. You couldn't even flush the toilet without this girl having a freak out that she's not going to get her 12 hours of sleep. It was literally insane. If there was anything for her to complain about, she found a way to complain. So going a little more into the temperature thing, this girl who is her friend, whose name is Sally, who ends up moving in with us later on. I'm still really good friends with Sally. She's friends with Katie, and they'll come over and they'll study together, they'll sit in the living room, and Sally was always nice. Sally would talk to me when I would come in. We never actually hung out, we didn't actually have each other's numbers or anything, but when she was there, we were always nice to each other. She was always super friendly, and Katie hated that she was nice to me, and Sally had ended up telling me she literally would get upset with her for being nice to me. She would want Sally to complain about me, or she would want Sally to basically badmouth me, like with her, and she wouldn't do it. And Sally had witnessed the temperature situation the one time. I came home, I always check the temperature. It was a typical routine. It was right by my door. I check it, turn it back on because she would shut the breaker off. And I remember Katie going, Heaven, and everything in me was like, oh, I want to strangle you. Just the tone she had. I turned to her and was like, Katie, like, do you not understand that it is too hot and it is too uncomfortable that the three of us are suffering? That is an unreasonable temperature that you're trying to make it to, and it's not fair. And we literally fought each other in the living room. Well, not physically fought. We literally we're arguing with each other in the living room, literally in front of Sally. And even Sally had said, it didn't make sense, her arguments. It didn't. And this went on throughout the entire time living together, the arguments about this. We would literally hold roommate meetings and tell her we are trying to compromise. We are trying to make this a comfortable living situation for all of us. We literally just have to make it through this 1 year, all four of us. And then we can, we don't have to live together again. You know what I mean? Let's just try and make this as comfortable as possible. And she always disagreed, always fought us. Robin and Julie were more quiet, so I typically did end up doing a lot of talking, which half the time turned into me yelling because it was like talking to a wall. It was just getting so uncomfortable to even be there that if she opened her door, everything in my body would tense up and I would just freeze in that position for a second. It was so unhealthy in that place because of the tension that she caused. Everybody else was fine with each other. Everybody else hung out. And we still tried to be nice with her for so long. But when you're always so difficult and you're always trying to make it your way or no way, obviously we aren't going to want to hang out with you. It was getting so bad that I started going to the gym so often that I actually had people telling me I had an unhealthy relationship with the gym and that I didn't look healthy. I was going there to stay away from home. I was going there to work out. I was going there separately to work out. I was going there separately to let off steam whenever we had a situation with her. I would go there again and do cardio. You're turning something that should be healthy somehow into unhealthy. There was one point where we ended up going to the building manager saying look, you need to get rid of her or something. We can't deal with her. We can't do this. This is obviously the reason why the other roommates, if you remember, kicked her out. The girl's crazy. We can't do it. And the building manager didn't have any other rooms to put her in, or they were rooms that had guys in it. You did have the choice of picking all girls, girls and guys, all guys. I think we had picked that we didn't really care and we ended up with all girls, but with Katie, she had clicked all girls. So there was no rooms available that had just all girls. All the other rooms that had availability were either guy rooms or they were co-ed rooms. So it was just, the building manager said, let me be the mediator, let's have these meetings. Basically all she got from it was that Katie and I weren't allowed to talk to each other, we weren't allowed to communicate with each other even in our apartment. It was just obviously getting to the point where we're gonna literally kill each other. There were times that we cried, building manager's office, just freaking out on each other. And she would always pull the same type of things. And the building manager obviously had to be the mediator, but she kept trying to pull it that she feels left out, or she feels like this, or she feels like that. And it's it didn't start off like that. It started off with all us hanging out and getting along, and then you decided to go crazy and she could never compromise. Basically, it didn't get us anywhere with the building manager. All it got us was that we weren't allowed to talk to each other and that we had to try and work it out. There was nothing that could be done to make this better because the three of us always agreed. And I ended up getting in trouble for being the main voice. Not that I got in trouble, but it looked bad on me because I was the one always speaking for the group, because Julie and Robin were just more quiet, they were more introverts, and they didn't feel comfortable talking. So in those big meetings, like Julie and Robin had to voice their opinions, and you could just tell they were so uncomfortable and they didn't even want to be in this type of situation. And I just had to like sit back and let them say their bit, because it started to look like it was just me against Katie, and the other, like, Katie had tried to make it look like I had controlled the other two into agreeing with me and not her, which isn't the case, because every time we agreed, like we talked about something, we did it all together as a group. It wasn't like I went to each of them individually. It wasn't like I planned anything. And like, Katie knew that, because they would still talk about what they wanted in our own little group meetings. It wasn't always me. They would still voice what they wanted. But in the meetings with the building manager, she'd flip it around and make it look like I always did all the talking and made the final decisions, which wasn't the case. So basically those meetings got us absolutely nowhere, other than the fact that we shouldn't talk to each other. So this is where this next situation I'm about to tell you is what gives Julie was Julie's final straw. She's like, I can't live here anymore, I can't do it, and she moves out. So we were having a party, and Katie hadn't been at the house for literally, I don't know, days. We had no idea where she was. We hadn't heard from her. And Katie's parents lived in the city. They literally paid all her bills and everything like that. Like, she didn't have to work, didn't have to pay anything. I don't know why she just didn't like live at home in the first place, because honestly, it was like living with a child, and she clearly wanted a parent. So I don't even know why she moved out, but she must have been with her family for those couple of days, and we wanted to have a party. So if you remember in the beginning, I mentioned that Katie brought the table, the dining set, the table and the chairs. And we were like, okay, well, I don't want her stuff getting damaged. Like, everything else here, the couch, all this stuff, like, we don't have to worry about that stuff because that's by us. And, you know, we just don't want her stuff ruined. And the chairs that she had, they looked like if you were to jump on it, you could probably destroy them. And we didn't know the situation that it was going to get to, considering it was going to be a party. We lived in a whole student building, so like it was just going to be a bunch of people there. So our neighbors that we were really, really close with, we asked, can we put the chairs in your apartment so that with the party that we're throwing tonight that they were coming to too, we just don't want them getting ruined. We just don't want to deal with that headache. We don't want to deal with that stress. They say fine, so we move them in there. We cover the table with, you know, those tablecloths that you can get for parties, like they're ones that you can throw away after. We covered the table with that. We made sure that that wasn't going to get scratched or anything. And we threw this party. Had a good time. Nothing got damaged. Well, we went to sleep, and I guess in the morning, Katie had come back. And Katie had noticed that her chairs were gone. And she called her dad. Now, her dad is like 6'8" and just a gigantic man, okay? I'm 4'10", and he's 6'8", okay? So she calls her dad comes in, and all I hear is banging and yelling, and like I jolt awake, and I check the clock, and it's 8 in the morning. And I'm thinking like, what the hell is that? What's going on? Next thing you know, I see banging on my door. My door is literally doing this. And this man is screaming at me to get his chairs. He's freaking out. I open my door, and Katie's standing there all smug because she got her freaking dad to come in. He's losing his shit on me, disrespectful, and freaking out. And wouldn't even let us explain that we had put the chairs in our roommate's place and we forgot to bring them back solely because we didn't want them to get ruined. He just was not having it, so we had to wake up our neighbors. We brought the chairs in. He freaked out. I threatened to call the cops if he ever came in and did it again, and I made sure Katie knew that. So her dad never came back, because honestly, I will call the cops. We, like, to freak out like that, like, literally, our doors were, like, wobbling. Like, are you, like, get out. Who are you? Get the chairs back. Julie comes into my room, and she's so freaked out. She's crying, she's in tears. She's like, I can't live here anymore. Like, I don't feel comfortable being here. And she makes a decision to move out. So Katie's friend, Sally, ends up taking over Julie's room. And Katie is like over the top happy. Like, she's normally very quiet, but she was happy and loud and just didn't even really bug us so much like me and Robin. She was just thrilled, probably because she felt like she had someone that was always going to agree with her, and it was going to be like a tie on things that can get done, which honestly fine. If it's going to be a tie, we're going to have to compromise. At least I know Sally would be able to compromise even if she doesn't agree with anything that me and Robin agree with. I have no idea what Sally prefers in temperature of unit or whatever. So Sally moves in, super nice. Katie and her seem to, they're hanging out in each other's rooms, they're going out. I swear, for a little bit there, like, Katie just didn't bug us, which was amazing. It was great for a little bit there. Where it goes south is when Sally and I start talking and hanging out. If I'm in the kitchen and Sally's in the living room, we'll talk, we'll hang out. It turns out we both like the same stuff. We both love working out. She loves photography, and my first program was photography. And we just got along really well. She was always nice. We never trash talked Katie or anything. We didn't even talk about Katie. She would bring her dogs in, we would see her dogs, and it was just great. It was a good relationship. There was never anything bad. But because Sally and I got along, that set Katie over. I'm pretty sure she started to lash out on Sally because she felt betrayed or something. And it got to the point that those two had meetings at their school because they went to the same university, and they weren't allowed to talk. They weren't allowed to communicate or anything because it was getting over and beyond. And Katie was trying to get Sally to write emails about me to send to the building manager, just being a conniving little shit, basically. So once again, three of us could always agree on everything. Three of us could always get along, but Katie could just never do it. She literally just could never do it. When Heather left, Robin and I started to share a bathroom, and then when Julie had left, Sally and Katie had shared a bathroom. So still Katie and I never shared a bathroom, and I remember this one time, I left to go to work, called for the elevator, remembered I forgot something, went back in, and I caught Katie booking it out of my bathroom, and I just stood there like, why would you be in my bathroom? And she instantly yelled, I'm allowed to be in there, Heaven, and slammed her door. That's not suspicious at all. What are you doing in my bathroom? I ended up having to keep my stuff out of the bathroom. The only thing in there that she could have even said she went in there for was that we had the water heater tank, which was locked behind a door, and we couldn't do anything to it. It literally was locked. There was a certain maintenance guy that would have to come in and do anything to it. So I don't know if she planned on damaging something in there so that something happened to the water. I don't know if she was going to do anything to my stuff, but after I noticed that, I stopped putting my stuff in the bathroom, which sucks because now I don't even get to leave my stuff in the bathroom. I have to carry it from my room to my bathroom because you literally cannot trust this girl. She was doing anything and everything she can to make her stay miserable there. Hi guys, sorry, I completely forgot to mention a certain part of the story, which is at the end of this story. So this is how I'm gonna end this off quickly, is that at one point we actually contacted her old roommates. She had told us some really awful things about them, how they mistreated her, the bullying, it was really bad, the things that she told us. And the one day we were like, you know what? Maybe we can get a letter from the old roommates saying why they kicked her out, and maybe we can get her taken out of our room as well because it worked with the other roommates. Why wouldn't it work with ours? So we did have their names, and we were able to find them on Instagram. We reached out to them. We all met up. Her old roommates, all of us met up. There was a bunch of different buildings. We just stayed in 2 different ones, and we met up at the mutual coffee shop there. Before we even explained what happened in our situation, we just asked them, what happened when you were with Katie? And literally the exact timeline of things that she did, she acted with each of us, happened the exact same way with them. And when they finished telling their story, me, Julie, and Robin just looked at each other like, oh my gosh, this is the exact situation that we've just gone through. We asked them if they would be willing to write a letter because we're trying to get her taken out of our unit. We just couldn't live there anymore. It was an unhealthy situation. And they agreed that they would write a letter to get her taken out. We weren't able to get her taken out of our unit at all. There was nowhere else to put her. And basically the building managers handled everything pretty poorly. They didn't actually help us in any single way. And essentially they made us just suck it up and deal with her till the end. We never talked. We don't have each other on social media or anything. But the gym that I go to now, because I used to use the gym in that building we lived in, she works there. And it was so weird because when we saw each other for the first time, I didn't know how to react because it had been 3 years. And she was like, oh, hi, how are you? And being nice. I don't want to give hate to her or anything like that. I'm just sharing the story. I don't know, what type of things she might have been going through. You know what I mean? I'm over it. I'm not upset by it. I don't want any, beef or whatever. I'm just sharing a story because, it's a crazy story time. How do you guys not want to hear a story time like that? And, if I ever see her, I'll be nice to her. But, I had to share that story. So I have seen her a couple of times and we've caught up a bit briefly, been really nice to each other, which is great because it's good to see that we can both move forward of that. That was a stressful time. I'm still really good with Sally. I'm still really good with Julie. I know I have Robin on Facebook and Instagram, and it looks like she's doing really well. She ended up moving out of the area. That was a roller coaster. I have had some crazy living situations. I still got more stories that I want to share with you guys, but I know you guys were asking for story times, and I was trying to think what would be a really good one to share with you guys, and I know my other living situation story times did really well, so I thought, you know what, let me share this one. But I hope you guys enjoy. Leave a thumbs up, comment down below if you had any similar roommate situations. I would love to hear your story times. It's literally, I feel like it's stuff you can't really get away from. I feel like there's always going to be some type of situation you go through at some point in your life that's like this. So if you need to vent about one or you want to share, let us know down in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell and follow my Instagram as well. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, a great rest of your week, and I'll see you in my next video. Thanks so much. Bye.